Hello students, in our previous lecture we are studied a new unit of paper second, that is taxation of charitable organization. Okay, in earlier lectures we are studied a meaning of charity, purposes of charity, income exempted of charitable trust. Okay, in our today's lecture we are going to study another theoretical part of charitable institution. Okay, so here, that is, what is trust? Okay, so we already studied the meaning of trust. That is, trust is a uh, created for the benefit of the public. Okay, not for specific community, not for specific person. Okay, so it is a created for the purpose of the benefit of the society or for the benefit of the public. So here trust includes obligation attached to the property, relationship and not equity. So trust is a relationship and not a entity. So we did not consider a trust as a business entity. Okay, so in accounting terms, entity is a uh, meaning of entity is a separate entity. Entity means separate business from the owners. Okay, so here trust is not a business. Okay, then legal title with trustee held for benefit of beneficiaries. So legal title of trust is uh, with the trustee held for the benefit of the public. Okay, then trustees obligation and responsibility is prescribed under Indian Trust Act. Status individual, applicable rate of tax AOP. So for the computation of tax liability of the trust, the tax rate of income or rate of tax is applicable same as per the association of persons. We are study the slab rate of the tax is okay at the time of practical problem. Okay, so trust is not a entity, it is a relationship. Legal title with trustee held for the benefit of the public. Then trustees responsibilities prescribed under Indian Trust Act. Okay, here a scheme of exemption under section 11. So we already studied the scheme of exemption under section 11, that is property held in trust wholly for charitable or religious purposes exempted from tax to the extent that that is the amount spent on the charity purpose is allowed for exemption. Then income accumulated for spending in subsequent year, म्हणजेच की जो आपण accumulation fund आपण पाहिला. ओके, सो accumulated fund, it means to keep aside a certain percentage of income for the future expenditure is called accumulation of fund. Okay, income applied for charitable purpose can be revenue or capital expenditure. So income applied in the revenue or capital expenditure all are considered as a expenditure of the trust. Okay, if we already studied this point, that is capital gain, and capital gain is the income of the trust. Okay, same as it is capital expenditure is the expenditure of the trust. Got it? So here remember this thing. Then income applied to charitable or religious purposes. So here income earned by the trust which is applied to different purposes. So the purposes is given here, that is part of income is accumulated for the meeting the future expenses at 15% or to the extent of 15% of income. Okay, so it means remember this point, that is income earned by the charitable institution is kept aside to the extent of 15%. Okay, So 15% income is kept aside every time. Okay, when we computing the income of the charitable trust, the income of charitable trust, 15% income of charitable trust uh, will be kept aside for meeting a future expenditures. Then income applied for charitable or religious purposes in India. So income applied for the benefit of the public in India are considered as application of fund in charity trust. Then option to spend in subsequent year. So the accumulated or the accumulated fund can be spent in subsequent year is also considered as application of uh, income, okay, of the charitable trust. Then accumulation of income under section 11 subsection 2 of the act. Okay, then corpse donation is very important. Okay, so here corpse donation means what? The corpse donation or corpse funds normally represents a permanent fund kept in the trust. So here corpse donation is a permanent fund of the charitable organization. It includes corrupt donation or contribution received with specific direction that they shall form part of the corpus. The intention of the donor that the contribution should form part of corpus is relevant. Then corpus contribution made by a trust to another registered trust under section 12AA shall not be considered as application of income. Okay, so the corpus donation is given by one trust to another trust. It shall not be considered as a application of income of that charitable organization or charitable trust. Got it? Then similar provision also added as 12th provision to section 10 subsection 23C. Okay, then next one is the intention for insertion of this anti-abuse measure was mentioned in the exploratory memorandum financial bill or finance bill 2017. Then however donation given by these exempt entities to another exempt entity with specific direction that it shall form part of corpus it through consider application of income in the hand of donors trust but is not considered as income of the receipt of the trust. So here donation given by this exempt entity to another exempt entity, it should not be considered as a income of the trust. Okay, then 14 corpus donation without actual application. Okay, so here the corpus donation means it is a permanent fund of the organization, okay, and which is applied for uh, relevant benefit or relevant expenditure is allowed for the exemption from the corpus donation. Here anonymous donation, say yes, 115 BBC. So anonymous donation is also important part while computing the taxable income of charitable trust. Anonymous donation means where the trust or institution receiving donation and does not maintain any record, name, address, and other prescribed particulars of the identity of a person giving the donation. So here anonymous donation means the donation received from the donor but the information of that donor uh, does not maintain by the trust is called anonymous donation. Okay, so record includes the name of donor, address of donor, and other prescribed particulars. Anonymous donation taxed as under. So here anonymous donation is taxable. Okay, so here charitable or religious trust institution section 11, universities or other educational institution. So donation or anonymous donation of university or other educational institution section 10 subsection 13C or third AD and 4 subsection, then the anonymous donation is taxable. Hospital and other medical institutions section 10 subsection 23C 3AE and 4a, the hospital or other medical institutions, anonymous donation is taxable under the section. Notified fund or institution established for charitable purpose. So section 10, this donation is taxable in section 10 subsection 23c subsection 4. Notified trust or institution established wholly for public, religious and charity purpose, then the anonymous donation for that charity or charitable organization is also taxable under section 10 subsection 23c subsection 4 or clause 5. Then anonymous donation. So anonymous donation 115 BBC, section 115 BBC does not apply in the below mentioned cases where anonymous donations were received. So section 115 BBC cannot be applied for certain cases, and these cases is given here. That is, first, anonymous donation received by trust established wholly for religious purpose and not covered by section 115 BBC. Okay. Then trust established for religious and charitable purpose. Okay, so the anonymous donation or the section 115 does not apply for the trust established for religious and charitable purpose, as well as the trust donation received for trust established for charitable or religious purpose, then this charity purpose or this charitable institution cannot cover under section 115 BBC. Okay, then any anonymous donation made with a specified or specific direction. So trust established for religious and charitable purpose includes two parts. Okay, that is, one is anonymous donation made with a specific direction, that the donation is for any university or educational institution or any hospital or any other medical institution run by the trustee. Then 115 BBC is applicable. It means anonymous donation is received by the university, educational institution, hospitals, medical institutions, and which is run by the trust, then the 115 BBC section is applicable for the trust. Then donation made without any specification. So donation or anonymous donation is received by the trust, but the specification is not given, then this donation is not covered under section 115 BBC. Trust established wholly for charitable purpose. If the trust is established wholly for charitable purpose, then section 115 BBC is applicable to respective charitable organization. Okay, so anonymous donation section 115 BBC is applicable and not applicable, we are studied here. Okay, so remember this point, the anonymous donation under section 115 BBC is applicable to the educational institution, hospital, medical institution, that is the donation made for a specific direction, then it is applicable. Donation is not made for any specification, then not covered by section 115 BBC. Okay, then trust established wholly for charitable purpose, then section 115 BBC is applicable. Okay, next one is anonymous donation section 115 BBC. So here taxability. Okay, so we already studied that the anonymous donation is taxable, and anonymous donation means no record maintained by the trust of the donor. Okay, here the tax payable at 30% plus applicable surcharge on the aggregate of anonymous donations received in excess of higher of the following. So here remember this thing, that anonymous donation is taxable at the rate 30%. Okay, and which is higher is taken into consideration for computing the anonymous donation. So here 5% of the total donation received by the SEC trust or rupees 1 lakh, whichever is higher is taken into consideration. That amount is deducted from the anonymous donation, and remaining balance of anonymous donation is taxable, and we compute a 30% on the taxable anonymous donation. Okay, then section 13 subsection 7 provides that the exemption under section 11, 12 and 10 subsection 23c not applicable to the such anonymous donation. So here exemption for anonymous donation is not applicable. Remember this thing, that anonymous donation is not exempted, it is taxable, but corpus donation is exempted. Okay, then such donation shall not be included in the total income eligible for exemption. So the anonymous donation should not be included in the total income of the organization, because we paid a separate tax on anonymous donation. So we deduct this anonymous donation from the total income of charitable organization. Therefore 85% thereof need not be spent, or nor would it be considered for calculating the permissible 15% accumulation. So here anonymous donation cannot be kept aside at 15%, okay, or not spend 85% amount for the charitable purpose. Okay, anonymous donation is spent for charitable purpose, but the rules for income of the charitable trust, that is 85% income of the charitable organization is spent for the charity purpose, and 15% income is kept aside to meet the future expenditure of the trust. But this rule is not applicable for anonymous donation, and anonymous donation should not be included in the total income of the organization or charitable organization, because we paid a separate tax on anonymous donation, and the tax rate for anonymous donation is 30%. Got it? So 30% anonymous or 30% rate is applicable for anonymous donation. Okay, so remember this very important part for computation of tax. Okay, then next one is accumulation. So we already studied the accumulation under section 11 subsection 2. Again we revise it. Accumulation for specific purpose for a period of 5 years. The accumulation means to kept a fund aside for the meeting future expenses of the trust, and the period is given, that is up to 5 years. Donation to another registered trust not permitted out of such accumulation. So accumulation of funds and the donation is given to another registered trust from the accumulated fund is not permitted according to the Income Tax Act 1961. Okay, investment in any of the modes specified under section 11 subsection 5 of the Income Tax Act 1961. Okay, so from the accumulation fund uh, the trust cannot make an investment in a investment by their uh, own rules. So here investment can be made by the trust, which mode was given by the Income Tax Act 1961. So specific mode is given by the Income Tax Act, and the trust can invest their money or invest their accumulation fund in the prescribed modes of investment. Got it? Then furnishing of form number 10 online with effect from 2016-17 before due date specified under section 139. It is not necessary. Again here a trust to pass appropriate resolution for accumulation. Purpose of accumulation can be amended by the specific application to AO. AO means assessing officer under section 11 subsection 3A. However, extension for spending not possible. If not spent within time limit of 5 years, the same is to be included in as income of the 6th year. Okay, then whether unspent amount taxable under section 11 subsection 13 eligible for 15% accumulation under section 11 subsection 1a. So accumulation of fund, if not spent, then from accumulation fund the 15% are kept aside and remaining balance is taxable. Second one is depreciation on capital asset. So depreciation on capital asset is very important because interest, the income spent on purchase of capital asset is not treated as a capital expenditure. It is treated as a application of fund or fund applied in capital asset, and it is a allowable expenditure of the trust. So remember here, depreciation on capital asset should not be taken into consideration here. Given that is section 11 subsection 6 introduced with effect from assessment year 2015-16. Okay, income of the trust will be determined without considering depreciation in respect of an asset, where acquisition of such assets has been claimed as application of income in an year. Okay, so we already studied that the capital asset or the asset purchased by the trust, it is treated as the application of the income. Okay, and it is not a capital expenditure for the trust. So depreciation or calculation of depreciation is not arises in the trust. Okay, so depreciation of capital asset is not taken into consideration. We directly consider that the capital asset purchased by any trust is considered as a application of income of that trust, and this application of money is allowable expenditure of the charitable trust for the benefit of the public. Okay, got it. Then benefit to specified person. Okay, under section 13 subsection 1 sub c. Okay, so here benefit to specified person result in loss of exemption and relevant income being taxed at MMR. Okay, so here benefit for specific person. Okay, so trust has only created for the benefit of certain persons, then the trust cannot get a exemption, or they lose their right to get a exemption for relevant income and at MMR, or the income which is earned by that type of trust is taxable. Then specified person. So specified person includes author, founders. Okay, then substantial contributor, cumulative donors is greater than 50,000, then uh, it is considered as a specific person or benefit to the specific person. Then member of HUF, then substantial contributor, trustee or manager, relative, then concern in which substantial interest. Okay, so these are the benefits for the person. Okay, nature of benefits. Okay, so nature of benefit is given here: income, property lent without adequate security interest. Okay, land or building, other property made available without adequate rent compensation. Okay, then salary or allowances paid in excess of reasonable amount. So these are the nature of benefits: services made available without adequate remuneration or compensation. Investment. So we already studied the investment, or the accumulation fund can be invested by the trust in prescribed modes by the Income Tax Act 1961. So here the investment mode is given. Investment are required to be in the form of mode specified under section 11 subsection 5. Violation results in loss of exemption. Okay, so the violation of section 11 subsection 5 is the loss of exemption for the charitable organization. It means the charitable trust cannot get the exemption from the income, or the income cannot be exempted if the trust violate the section 11 subsection 5. Okay, then prohibited assets to be disposed of within 1 year from end of year in which asset acquire prohibited assets to be disposed. Disposed means to sold out or to scrap this that type of assets within 1 years. Okay, then trust can hold prohibited assets other than shares received as donation, no investment of fund of the trust. Okay, then blanket prohibited on holding shares, then except shares held as corpus as on 1st June 1973 and accretion to such shares by way of bonus and shares. Okay, so these are the modes of investment. If the trust can violate the section or violate the rules of the income tax act, then the trust lose their exemption of uh, income of the trust. Carry forward of deficit, so no specific provision for carry forward of deficit is given. Okay, then no limitation under section 11 that income should be applied for charitable purpose only in a year in which the income has arises. So no specific limitation is given under section 11 for the purpose of utilization of income of the charitable organization for the charity purpose in current year. Okay, so it can be applied in subsequent year also. Expenditure incurred in a earlier year can be adjusted against the income of subsequent year. Does a trust have unfettered right to carry forward its deficit? Okay, then exemption. Okay, so we exemption already studied. Furnishing statement of donation. So statement of donation, so we already studied that if the total income of the charitable organization is more than 20,000, then the trust has gets their accounts audited from a qualified accountants. Okay, so furnishing a statement of donation with effect from 1st June 2020, trust approved under section 80G to 80GGA need to file statement of donation in prescribed manner and time to be prescribed authority. Okay, so from the 1st June 2020, the statement of donation is prescribed in the prescribed format to the authority or income tax authority. Here that is given, correction statement can be filled in case of any addition, deletion, updation of information can be filled in the prescribed form and manner. If any correction or any addition, deletion is made in the uh, furnishing the statement of donation, then it can be uh, filled or it can be filed in a prescribed manner to the authority. Donor will get a deduction under section 80G to 80GGA based on the donation statement. So according to the donation statement, the donor will get a deduction under section 80G or 80GGA. Then trust needs to furnish a certificate in prescribed format to the donor specifying the amount of donation. On failure to furnish the statement, so the trust is failed to furnish the statement of donation, then the trust is trust is uh, penalized by the income tax uh, authority. Okay, so the penalty is given here, that is particulars new section maximum limit and minimum limit. Okay, so here particulars new section minimum amount and maximum amount. Okay, late fee under section 234G, minimum amount of penalty for charitable organization is given, that is rupees 200 for every defaulting day, or amount of donation is the maximum limit. So minimum limit is rupees 200 for every defaulting day, maximum amount is uh, amount of donation amount is the penalty for the charitable organization if the charitable organization does not furnish a statement of donation. Then penalty. Okay, so penalty is 271k, rupees 10,000 or rupees 1 lakh. So here minimum penalty under section 271k amounted to rupees 10,000 and maximum amount rupees 1 lakh. Okay, so here if the charitable organization cannot furnish the donation statement within the due date, then the late fee, minimum late fee is rupees 200 for every defaulting day, and maximum amount is donation. Okay, and penalty for the charitable organization for failure to furnish the donation statement is, or under section 271k, amounted to rupees minimum 10,000 and maximum 1 lakh. Got it? So here the donation statement is furnished within the time. Okay, thanking you. Okay, so here we studied the donation, depreciation, and scheme, what is trust. Okay, so again we revise the corpus donation and anonymous donation. Trust we already discussed what is meant by trust. Scheme of exemption we already discussed. Application of income of charitable organization or religions trust or purposes to apply the income we already studied. corpस डोनेशन म्हणजे काय बघा, आता यामध्ये काय सांगितलेलं आहे की जो परमनंट फंड आहे त्याला corpus डोनेशन म्हटलं जातं. आणि त्यामध्ये जे जे इन्क्लूड आहे ते आपण पाहिलं की corpus डोनेशन मध्ये काय काय असतं, तर कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन असतं, जे कोणी डोनरने दिले असेल त्याचं कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन असेल. ओके, त्यानंतर कॉन्ट्रीब्युशन मेड बाय ट्रस्ट टू अनदर ट्रस्ट इज नॉट ॲप्लिकेबल और इज नॉट कन्सिडर ॲज अ इन्कम ऑफ द चॅरिटेबल ऑर्गनायझेशन. म्हणजे एखाद्या ट्रस्टने दुसऱ्या ट्रस्टला रजिस्ट्रेशनच्या काळात दिलेलं डोनेशन जे असेल ते corpus डोनेशनमध्ये कन्सिडर केलं जात नाही. ओके, त्यानंतर त्याच पद्धतीच्या प्रोव्हिजन्स त्यामध्ये आलेले आहेत सेक्शन 10 सबसेक्शन 23C प्रमाणे, हे आपण पाहिलं. ओके, corpus डोनेशन हे इन्कम आहे ट्रस्टचं. ओके, परंतु ॲनॉनिमस डोनेशन आपण पाहिलं की ज्याचं रेकॉर्ड त्या ट्रस्टला मेंटेन केले जात नाहीत किंवा नसतात, मग त्यामध्ये नेम असेल, ॲड्रेस असेल, तो जर नसेल तर त्याला ॲनॉनिमस डोनेशन म्हटलं जातं. आणि ॲनॉनिमस डोनेशन हे काय सांगितलेलं आहे, टॅक्सेबल आहे. मग ते कुणालाही मिळू द्या, मग कोणाकोणाला भेटलं, जर युनिव्हर्सिटी किंवा एज्युकेशनल इन्स्टिट्यूशनला मिळत असेल तर ते टॅक्सेबल आहे. हॉस्पिटलला मिळत असेल ॲनॉनिमस डोनेशन, मेडिकल इन्स्टिट्यूशनला ॲनॉनिमस डोनेशन मिळत असेल तर ते टॅक्सेबल आहे. किंवा एखादा नोटिफाईड फंड और इन्स्टिट्यूशन जी काय इस्टॅब्लिश होत असेल चॅरिटेबल पर्पजसाठी, त्यांना जर मिळत असेल तर त्यांनासुद्धा त्याच्यावरती टॅक्स द्यावा लागेल. मग त्याचा टॅक्स रेट आपण इथं पाहिलेला आहे. ओके, मग टॅक्स रेट किंवा ॲनॉनिमस डोनेशनचं सेक्शन 115 BBC कुणाला ॲप्लिकेबल होतं आणि कुणाला ॲप्लिकेबल होत नाही हे आपण पाहिलं. मग एखादीला जर ॲनॉनिमस डोनेशन रिसिव्ड होतं आहे, इस्टॅब्लिश झाली, आणि ती जी ट्रस्ट आहे, ओके, ती कशासाठी क्रिएट झाली असेल तर पूर्णपणे रिलिजियस पर्पजसाठी झाली असेल तर ते ॲनॉनिमस डोनेशन हे सेक्शन 115 BBC मध्ये कन्सिडर केलं जात नाही. त्याचबरोबर जर एखादी ट्रस्ट रिलिजियस आणि चॅरिटी दोन्हीसाठी काय झाली असेल, फॉर्म झाली असेल, तर त्यासाठी दोन पार्ट पडलेले आहे की ते डोनेशन हे स्पेसिफिक डायरेक्शनसाठी किंवा डायरेक्शनमध्ये यूज केलं. ओके, मग जर युनिव्हर्सिटीमध्ये, एज्युकेशन इन्स्टिट्यूशनमध्ये, हॉस्पिटलमध्ये किंवा मेडिकल इन्स्टिट्यूशन असेल, जी की एखादी ट्रस्ट काय करत आहे, चालवत आहे, तरच त्यांना सेक्शन 115 BBC हे काय होणार आहे, ॲप्लिकेबल होणार आहे. डोनेशन हे विदाऊट स्पेसिफिकेशन असेल, स्पेसिफिकतेमध्ये सांगितलं नसेल तर ते डोनेशन काय राहणार आहे, ते डोनेशन या सेक्शनमध्ये येणार नाही, ॲप्लिकेबल होणार नाही त्या डोनेशनला हे सेक्शन. ओके, ट्रस्ट पूर्णपणे चॅरिटेबल पर्पजसाठी स्थापन केले असेल तर त्यासाठी हे सेक्शन्स काय होणार आहे, ॲप्लिकेबल होणार आहे. हे एक आपण त्यामध्ये पाहिलं. अनॉनिमस डोनेशन किती टक्के टॅक्सेबल आहे? तर बघा, अनॉनिमस डोनेशन हा सगळ्यात महत्त्वाचा पार्ट आहे चॅरिटेबल ऑर्गनायझेशनचा इन्कम कम्प्यूट करत असताना. तर अनॉनिमस डोनेशन म्हणजे आपण पाहिलं की ज्याचं रेकॉर्ड मेंटेन केलं जात नाही, याला म्हटलं जातं अनॉनिमस डोनेशन. मग याला किती टक्के टॅक्स असतो? तर अनॉनिमस डोनेशनला 30% टॅक्स द्यावा लागतो. त्यासाठी जे काही आपण जे पाहिले विचेवर इज हायर ते लेस करून, म्हणजे समजा 50,000 डोनेशन असेल किंवा एक 50 लाख असेल, तर त्यापैकी आपण कम्प्यूट करणार, काय करणार, तर 5% टोटल डोनेशनच्या आणि रुपये 1,00,000 या दोन्हीमधली जी मोठी रक्कम असेल ती त्यातून वजा होईल. राहिलेल्या डोनेशनवरती आपल्याला काय करावं लागेल? टॅक्स द्यावा लागेल. हे एक आपण त्यामध्ये पाहिलं. मग टॅक्स रेट किती आहे अनॉनिमस डोनेशनला? 30% टॅक्स रेट आहे. हे एक आपण इथं पाहिलेलं आहे. लक्षात आलं? त्यानंतर एक्झम्पशन सांगितले की अनॉनिमस डोनेशनला ॲक्युम्युलेशन पद्धती ही लागू होत नाही किंवा इन्कम ॲक्युम्युलेट करावा तशा पद्धतीत होत नाही. त्याचबरोबर अनॉनिमस डोनेशन हे टोटल इन्कममध्ये कधीही कन्सिडर होत नाही. का होत नाही? तर इन्कम दाखवतो, परंतु ज्यावेळेस त्याच्यावरती टॅक्स देत असतो त्यावेळेस आपण हे अनॉनिमस डोनेशन टोटल इन्कममधून वजा करतो. का वजा करतो? तर त्याच्यावरती सेपरेट डोनेशन आपण देत असतो, म्हणून ते इथं कन्सिडर किंवा त्याचे टॅक्स परत द्यावा लागणार नाही, यासाठी त्याला कन्सिडर केलं जात नाही. ओके. त्यानंतर ॲक्युम्युलेशन आपण पाहिलं, डेप्रिसिएशन पाहिलं. डेप्रिसिएशनमध्ये काय पाहिलेलं आहे की कॅपिटल ॲसेटचं डेप्रिसिएशन चॅरिटेबल ट्रस्टमध्ये कन्सिडरच केलं जात नाही. का केलं जात नाही? तर जे काही डेप्रिसिएशन आहे ते कन्सिडर होत नाही. का होत नाही? तर यामध्ये काय सांगितलेलं आहे की कॅपिटल ॲसेटमध्ये पैसे गुंतवले किंवा त्यात पैसे मिळत असतील तर तर सॉरी पैसे मिळत म्हणजे जो काही चॅरिटेबल ऑर्गनायझेशनचा इन्कम आहे तो एखादी कॅपिटल ॲसेट खरेदी करण्यासाठी ॲप्लिकेशन करत असेल ती ट्रस्ट, तर तो त्याचा खर्च कन्सिडर केला जातो. लक्षात आलं? त्याच्यानंतर आपण काय पाहिलं की बेनिफिट्स पाहिले. बेनिफिट्स, नेचर ऑफ बेनिफिट्स, इन्व्हेस्टमेंटचे मोड पाहिले, कॅरी फॉरवर्ड डिपॉझिट पाहिले, हे तर पाहिलेलंच आहे. त्यानंतर पेनल्टी पाहिलेली आहे आणि इथं आपण थांबलेलो आहे. ओके. इन आवर नेक्स्ट व्हिडिओ वी आर स्टडीड ए कम्प्युटेशन ऑफ taxable income of the charitable organization and computation of tax liability of the charitable organization. Okay, so here thank you very much.